Okay, now that we have all the pieces in the board for our chess, we need to combine everything into one file because we want to kind of render this out and present it in a nice manner instead of having everything individual. So what we're going to do is we have the chess board, knight, rook, queen, pawn, king, bishop. And again, I was kind of all over the place with materials. Some of the meshes I named, some of them I didn't. So the beginning of this is just going to be organizing everything together and cleaning everything up and just making it a nice workable scene. Because again, when you have one thing in a scene, you can have some weird materials and stuff because again, it's not really all that complicated. But once you start getting a bunch of stuff in a scene, it's usually good to be more organized. So I'm just going to grab all these files, drag and drop them over here. And what that's actually going to do is it's going to open a separate project for each one of these. Let's drag this down. So kind of our downfall is it has all these backdrop items. There's probably going to be a bunch of different materials. So what we're going to do is we're just going to organize all these into one big thing. The other thing is we're probably going to have different sizes. So we have a really big rook, a really small queen. So we want to kind of consolidate everything, make it all same size, same file. So what I'm going to do is one at a time. I'm just going to make sure that my meshes are named correctly. So this is the queen mesh. This is the rook mesh. And I'm just going to grab this rook mesh and drop it right into the queen. We'll just leave these settings to default, hit OK. Now these two are in the same scene technically, so I'll just go ahead and close this rook. Not going to worry about saving it. The knight, and this is a different version of a knight. It's a little bit goofier than the one that I made, but it should work just fine. Drag it in, close. Don't worry about saving the chess board itself. We don't need to worry about that backdrop image. Let's drag him in. Close this, don't save. Bishop isn't named, so we'll drag it over. Name it bishop. And then we close this file. So again, you can see it's already getting more organized. The king, he's not named either. And the last piece is going to be the pawn. So now we have everything in the scene, and we have drastically different sizes for everything. So what we're going to do is, actually, if I look here, there's a cube inside of our mesh. So what we're going to do is we're just going to middle mouse lasso select. That'll grab him. I don't want to grab any other parts of him. So a different thing you could technically do is if I double click my rook piece, I can go up to view and hit hide selected, grab this box, delete it, go back to view and hit unhide. Now he's kind of out and ready to go. So let's scale him down. And really, I don't need to have these pieces in the center of the world anymore. So let's start moving these around, scaling them down. And I'm just going to scale these down to fit this board. So the other thing, this guy still has a transparent material on him. So we're going to have to do kind of an overhaul in the materials as well. But we'll get through this. So another thing that we can do that'll make this a little bit easier to organize is to grab our first mesh, hold shift, click on our last mesh, and now everything is technically an active mesh. So I can grab this piece, place it, grab this one, and again I want to make sure that if there's two pieces, I grab both for when I'm double clicking. I'm saying as long as I have all the pieces, I should be fine. This one's all one piece, so it's looking like this one's two separate pieces for now. And we're actually missing, oh, there's the king. It's huge. Again, holding shift and hitting A is going to zoom in onto the one thing you have selected. So when you're placing your pieces, if you need to, you can just refer to the internet or a reference image or whatever to let you know kind of what pieces go where. You can zoom in on those and just make sure, oh, queen goes on the left, king goes on the right, rook goes on the outside, etc. So let's start getting these into place, and then I'll scale them. So let's go to a top view. He's going to be over here. Shrink him down to where he fits inside. Then switch to a perspective view and then just bring him straight down. Because again, we lined him up with that top view so we know he's the correct size. Another tip that might be useful, if you accidentally move your widget, you can actually do this intentionally by right-clicking. It'll move where your widget's at. If you want to get it back in the center, what you can do is either drop your tool and then activate your move tool again and it'll reset. Then I'll right-click to intentionally move it. Or you can just switch to a different tool and then switch back. So E switches to scale, W switches back to the move tool. So again, our move tool is over here, and just hit E, W really quick. So switch to rotate, switch back to move, just like that, and it recenters. So that could be a potentially other helpful tip. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't need to be sitting perfectly on the surface, but we don't want it to be floating up in the air. So you can see what it kind of looks like as you start going through the surface. So we'll just barely have them going through, call it good. And then we can go ahead and grab the next piece. Go ahead and grab him. Switch to the top view, and then place the knight right by the rook. And again, I'm just making sure that width and height he fits in here. Somewhere around here. Zoom out. And again, I really can't rely on a side view because that lip is a little bit higher than the ground over here. So again, we don't need to get this perfect. Just close enough is good enough for this one. So we have this and then that little top piece. Again, switching to a top view. Again, to bring up this menu is Control and Spacebar to switch between these views. Otherwise, you can go up here, switch to top view. Either way works. We're just going to do this process. For all of these pieces. And again, right now the materials are a little bit screwed up. We have some transparent ones, some not. And again, I want to be careful I'm not accidentally grabbing stuff over here and then moving it. So again, sometimes it's better to get a different camera angle where it's not interfering like this. Then I can lasso select this whole part. Again, we'll make the base of this one a little bit bigger. Then we'll go ahead and rotate them this way. Another tip, if you hold the Control key and then click and drag, it's going to snap to 15-degree angles. That's potentially helpful, so you don't have to manually put that in. Oops, it looks like at some point I kind of skewed this a little bit, which isn't the end of the world, but we can get it back like so. Make sure that's centered. And placing this one. Oops. Don't want to accidentally scale that on the wrong axis. And throwing our last piece over here. So at this point, everything is the correct size. We'll make the pawn just a little bit smaller. Now, I just want to get everything so it's the correct material. So I'm not going to worry about this yet. So let's just go ahead and clean up all of our materials. I have default, queen, and imported shaders. So when you drag one mesh from another file, it's going to have imported shaders, which is a shader is just in this case a material. So I'm actually just going to grab all of these except for the default one, hit delete, make it a little simple, and we'll rename these white pieces, and instead of a white color we'll pick kind of an off-white. Hit OK. So from here what I'm actually going to do is, again, I did the hide unhide to get rid of this, so view hide selected right here, and then view unhide, and again the hotkeys are right there, H, Shift H, Control H, and U to bring them back. So this piece I'm gonna copy paste, so Control C, Control V, W to move, slide him over, make sure he's good, get this top piece, and its bottom piece, Control C, Control V, copy paste, put him into place. This guy is all one piece, so copy paste him, switch to move. And this one, we'll actually show you a new tool on this one. It's a pretty useful tool. It is in the duplicate tab, and it is called clone. So let's switch to polygon mode, double click, left click clone. So number of clones 6, we'll just set this to 0. And let's hit apply. So now you see my wireframe got really, really dark. Switch to W and then move, and that's kind of a bad way of doing it. So let's undo that, undo, undo, undo. There we go, until our clone tool disappears. So with the clone tool, actually instead of hitting the apply button, what I'm going to do is I have the clone tool selected, my geometry selected. I'm just going to right click in the 3D viewport, hovering over it. And what's going to happen is this little move widget's going to come. Now when I click and drag him, all these pieces are going to come out. And realistically, I can just line this guy in this first one. I can line him up in between the lines, and as long as he's spaced properly, all the other ones should be spaced properly. Or again, I can look at this outside guy. Let's actually pop this up to 7 clones, so we have 8 total. There we go. Now we have all these little guys placed, and it saved me the headache of copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, move. So now what I need to do is I need a black side. So let's go ahead, double click this, view, hide selected. I'm going to grab this entire set of pieces, copy, paste, and then I'm going to hit W to activate the move tool, move these out. Now I need to switch to the rotate tool, hit the E key. I'm going to hold the control key, click and drag to rotate these around. Again, that control key is going to let me snap, otherwise I could just put in 180 degrees. Either way, oops, works. Let's actually rotate those. I hit the undo button on accident. spacebar to drop that. And I'm going to hold, actually I don't need to hold shift. The hotkey for unhide is just U. W to move. I'm going to pull these guys just a little bit forward, about right there should do it. So now these guys are already selected. I'll hit the escape key. I need to change their color to black, so hit the M key. Have white pieces, we'll change these to black. And instead of making them black, we'll actually make them just like a dark brown color. Around in there, so we can tell them apart. Ooh. So I don't really like that color after I picked it, so if we want to change that, what we can do is just go in here, click this material, click the properties, and right here we see this little color right here. So I can actually go in and now I'm going to get the different color picker. So let's, now when I see this, it's actively updating to whatever color I have it. So we'll get it more in the red, desaturated, a little darker, somewhere around there. So we have our quote-unquote black and white pieces. Now we can go ahead and start coloring the board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that we have kind of the black and white pieces of the board. And then this part is going to be just like a brown color, like simulating wood. And then this little trim right here will make that a gold color. Again, everything will be kind of shades of brown, realistically. So real quick, let's color this board. So I want to, we can look at our reference real quick. And the back left piece is the dark piece, so that one's going to be the dark one. And then that one's going to be the dark one. Again, attention to detail. People that play chess would know if you made this one white instead of black. But regardless, I'm going to double click on our board, hit view, hide unselected. So it's just this visible. So now let's go ahead and select this. So we're going to do every other one. We can either do it diagonal like this, or we can hit every other one. Hit the up arrow, every other one, up arrow, up arrow. Really just depends on how we want to select these. Takes a little bit, but it's not hard at all. So something like that. So this, we'll name this, oops, board dark. More desaturated, more dark. Something like that. These ones are going to be the light pieces. Oops, we missed this guy. So I'm just going to select him. Hit M for material, board dark's already up. And that guy's set. So again, this is just another way that a tablet is going to be faster than a trackpad, or potentially even a mouse. So this is going to be board. Instead of dark, this will be light. And let's just brighten this up, make it really close to white color, but still have a little hint of brown, something like that. So now what we're going to do is, let's do this the easy way. I'm just going to go to the top view, lasso select, and again, this is just another instance of, think of the fastest way of selecting things. Go to the bottom, actually, just go to the front view, and lasso select the bottom of this. There we go. Top's not selected. M for material. This can be board wood. Make this like a medium brown tone. And again, if we don't like it, we can always change it later. And then lastly, what we want to do is this. We already assigned it as the board wood color, but we'll just end up overriding it. So let's actually go to this view, and I'm just going to lasso select this little circle right here. And that gives me this entire edge. So go over here, lasso select. Now I go to a right view, go over here, middle mouse click lasso select, and middle mouse click lasso select. That should be all of our little borders. There we go. So we'll call this board gold, and we'll just make this a little bit warmer yellow color, something like that. So now we have our board, hit U to unhide, and we have our chess piece with all the materials set up. And it's pretty much at this point ready to render. So I'd go ahead and save this out and just save this as like chessboard assembled or something like that. And you should be good to go for the next step.